Hey everyone, I'm Rachel,
And I'm David.
and these are our tips and tricks for cruising through Alaska.
Let's
Let's go!
go.
So, our first tip and trick for cruising through Alaska is to pack layers. Now, don't overpack, but you could need a lot of different kinds of clothing for this kind of cruise. You could use some short sleeves, you could use some long sleeves, some light jackets, a heavy jacket. Just make sure that you pack a lot of different kinds of things because on the ship you're going to be one temperature, but then on shore you're going to be another. And you want to make sure you don't get too cold or too hot. Especially pack some sturdy and versatile shoes. Don't pack 15 pairs of shoes, but you will need something that's waterproof, probably, something that has a little bit of a grip to it. And you also need to make sure you pack some rain gear. It does rain no matter what time of year it is. It's pretty rainy, it's in a rainforest. So just make sure you pack something to keep yourself a little bit dry.
Yeah, and I will say I get warm really easily. So layering is really, really difficult for me. So I almost bring the light jacket usually when we go on these things, but I do end up really, really wet. And then I kind of feel really stupid. But it's kind of better to have something and just wear it around your waist if you're worried about something like that. And I feel like it might not rain, but it gets kind of misty in certain
Yeah.
places. So you can go through a really dry patch and be fine for the whole day and then hit something foggy and misty and then end up like dripping wet. So that happens to me sometimes. So if you do end up being really, really hot, at least you're in layers. You can kind of take things off as you need them and put them back on, as the weather changes a little bit.
Yeah. And when you're in the cruising season, it's never going to be, freezing, freezing cold. You're not going to be there in the middle of the winter. There's not going to be tons of snow unless you go up on top of a glacier. Just keep that in mind that you want to bring kind of layers, but don't prepare for negative degrees and don't prepare for super hot either.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't wear like thermal underwear or anything like that. I don't think it's going to get that crazy on your cruise unless you're on like one of the expedition type ones. But overall, I think you're going to be okay. There's lots of shops if you do need to pick
That's
something up.
true.
The cruise shop here is like catered towards having Alaskan themed things, so they know what you're kind of dealing with and kind of the things people have needed over the years, and they'll be happy to upcharge you on those things. You'll have some options. So if you do forget something, don't panic too much. You'll be okay. And our next tip, honestly, is probably one of my favorites and kind of one of the things I wish we had done from the beginning. But I do genuinely think it's worth splurging for the balcony. Now, I see on Reddit all the time, people are kind of on the fence about it, if it's worth the upgrade or not. And in my opinion, it really, really kind of is.
Yeah.
This is one of those places where it's so scenic the whole time, just about. But once you finally get into the fjords and stuff, it's so gorgeous. You're really going to wish you had it at some point, if for nothing else, to just kind of have your own space to appreciate and take in the nature and not having to crowd onto like the promenade deck or something like that. But what do you think about the balcony?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was gonna say. I mean, most Alaska cruises, even like 7 days, have at least one scenic cruising day.
Yeah.
And on that scenic cruising day, you're gonna have to fight people to get a good spot and a good view of a glacier if your ship is lucky enough to go see one. And if you have a balcony, you don't have to worry about that. You can go and get your food and your coffee and you can bring it back and eat on your balcony and watch, the glacier and just wildlife, and it's just so serene. And also, like, when you're on the main decks on those sorts of days, it can get, I mean, people are loud because there's lots of people and everything, but when you're on your balcony, it's so quiet. Like, everybody seems to like respect each other when they're out on their balconies. So I definitely think springing for a balcony is worth it in Alaska. It doesn't matter if you go for the lowest or cheapest balcony or if you get a suite. Like, we're not saying you have to pay for a suite or anything, but having the balcony is so, so, so nice. And we have seen so much wildlife from our balcony. We have seen humpback whales and orcas,
Oh, the orcas were so cool.
and like you see all sorts of birds, and then of course obviously the glaciers. It's just a wonderful thing. And I guess my last point about balconies is, like, if you are taking off from Seattle or San Francisco or somewhere like that, you might, the first couple of days that you're at sea, be like, oh no, what did I do? Because you won't be able to see anything when you're at sea, really. And especially, like, Alaska is so damp. We talked about that already, but it might seem misty and like you might be scared you're not gonna be able to see anything. But eventually the clouds will clear and you'll be able to see all sorts of beautiful mountains and wildlife and everything. So just get the balcony.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point. Honestly, I want to kind of reiterate it. It can seem like a mistake at first, Especially like for this particular cruise, we had 3 sea days to start the day, and we're like kind of half using our balcony, but the chairs are wet now. We're not really out there. We kind of just leave the door open and kind of admire it from the inside. But even that's really cool. And getting like that fresh air, honestly, it really helps make the ship feel less crowded. It's
Yeah.
not so stifling. But I really think it's worth considering if you're on the fence about getting a balcony, or you're like, if I go for the balcony, we probably won't be able to go until next year. I honestly think it might be worth just holding off and
I
going
agree.
next year.
Yeah, and I think there are cruises that we are more than fine having an interior.
Oh, yeah.
Like there are a lot of cruises we're more than fine having an interior for, but this is not one of them.
Yeah, I agree completely.
The next tip and trick is about when you want to go on a cruise to Alaska. Cruises start in about mid-April and go to late September sometimes. So there's early, mid, or late season cruising, and they all have different perks and different things that are special about them. So if you choose the early season, so April, early May, it's not crowded at all. In fact, we actually did the first cruise of the season our first time in Alaska, and it was great because we were the only ship in any of our ports, and it was just really quiet. But that does mean like some of the shops still weren't open, or some of the food in the town still wasn't open. There won't be as much wildlife. Bears are still in hibernation at that point. But we did see a lot of whales because it was like migration season, so that was really nice. And the other thing is it will still be pretty cold.
I will say too that yeah, not all the shops were open, but the ones that were open were super excited to see us. It felt like they were like way more personable. They were excited to get the business coming in and finally get their season going. So it was I actually really, really liked it. I felt bad not seeing bears and stuff like that. But again, you can't go to Alaska and expect to see bears.
Yeah.
Now, if you do go during this time of year, like you mentioned, it's not gonna happen. Just about like I wouldn't bank on it. So, but whale watching is really fun. You can see different kinds of whales. You see pods of whales. So it's actually a really good time still. So I wouldn't chalk it off your list just because, bears might not be on the menu.
And mid-season is the most crowded. So that's like June, July, maybe into the beginning of August. You're going to have the most ships around. You're probably going to be charged the most for those cruises, and as well as imports, things are a little bit more expensive because they know they have kind of a captive audience there. But there is the most wildlife. That's your best chances of seeing all the different kinds of special wildlife in Alaska. And the temperature is actually the mildest as well. I mean, as you could expect, it's kind of the high season in Alaska. It's the warmest it's going to get. So 60s and 70s, sometimes maybe 50s Fahrenheit will be kind of what you can expect. So it's very, very comfortable. And the temperature will be great. So that's kind of the perks to mid-season.
Yeah, I'll say also if wildlife is your goal, you can actually you can go online and track the salmon migration and when they're starting the spawns and as they're starting to wake up. That's when all the animals are getting excited and you're way more likely to see those things. So I think there's actually some really interesting places that you can go and learn about what those migration patterns look like and stuff. And it really does amplify your odds to see a bear, or you'll find sea otters and sea lions and stuff like that too. So
And the late season, so August into September, is really for you if you want the best chance of seeing the northern lights, but we do not guarantee that. We do not suggest that an Alaskan cruise is the way to see the northern lights, but that's the best possible chance that you could have. And the fall colors. You're going to see some actual changing of colors starting mostly in early September. We actually went on an Alaskan cruise last September, and we did get to see some pretty fall colors on one of the railways that we went.
yeah, and it's gorgeous. Obviously, I will say I was a little surprised. The trees don't change that much near the coastline,
Yeah.
but obviously, you're going to Alaska. You're going inland a little bit, at least. There's the railway that goes out to the Yukon and stuff. The White Pass Railroad. Also, you can see some really beautiful colors. So I actually think it's kind of an underrated fall colors cruise. It's actually gorgeous.
Yeah.
It's a really good time. So I wouldn't chalk that off either.
Yeah, and the crowds are less. As you get towards the later in the season, kids are back in school. People just think it's going to be too cold, when really it's not much colder than it was in July. But yeah, so it'll be a little less crowded and there won't be as many ships in port for you.
I think that's one of the things that surprises me is every time we come here, I'm always expecting it to be really cold, and it always feels like, even though we've come at totally different times of the year, it always feels the same temperature, which I really appreciate because I am kind of, I get really hot on warm weather cruises, and now we're doing the cooler weather cruises. I really appreciate it, and it's pretty consistent, so I'm very, very happy about that.
So, if you're going to ask what my favorite time to go to Alaska would be, I actually do prefer the late season.
Mm.
That's still when you might see some bears. In fact, we did see bears last September, and it was not crowded. The temperature was perfect. We got some fall colors. That was really my ideal.
Yeah, that's when you start seeing the ships not really run at full capacity, and you get like a lot more attentive servers. The ships don't feel as crowded, obviously, and honestly, I feel like our upgrade offers were like way easier to get at that point. So
Yeah.
that was actually really, really nice. And I think I'm gonna agree with you. I like coming towards the end of the year. Alaska is like a family destination, so it does feel like there's way more kids for the first two seasons. I think you can still see some migrating away from Alaska at that point too,
Yeah.
so you can still see the
Oh
humpback
yeah, we
whales and
saw
stuff.
orcas and everything last September as well. So, I again, take it what you will of all of the three different seasons that we talked about, but if you want our preference, it's the late season.
Yeah, I agree.
So, our next tip and trick is that you need to have a budget that's not just for your cruise fare. Unfortunately, because it is hard to get to, Alaska is fairly expensive. That goes for tours that you're going to do, whether they're the ship tours or you organize something outside of that. It's food, it's, souvenirs, it's pretty much anything within the cruise experience itself is going to be more expensive.
Alaska has really cool souvenirs. So there's a lot of really unique things. There's a lot of homemade crafts that are really beautiful. There's just so many things that are distinctly Alaska. And I think that is just amazing. And they do such a good job of, presenting those as options as you're going through the stores, and they'll let you know what's made locally and what's not. They're all really honest about that kind of stuff. So I love it.
Yeah, and as far as the excursions go, I mean, your ship is always going to add a little bit of an upcharge to whatever the locals are offering, but that does guarantee, return to the ship and that you won't miss it if you get back stuck in traffic or something like that. But we have really enjoyed pretty much every single excursion we've taken, and this is our fourth cruise through Alaska. So you can see so many different things. There's tons of whale watching offerings. There's tons of gold panning.
Mhm.
There's salmon bakes, dog sledding. There's so many cool things that you can do, and don't let the price tag deter you from that. But do make sure that you save up the money and that you do book your tours in advance, because things will sell out, and you don't want to miss out on something that you've really, really excited about because you didn't plan ahead for the money or the time.
Yeah, and my bonus tip for everybody out there, and we'll always suggest this, is read the reviews. They're usually pretty honest or brutally honest, sometimes too honest. But if it sounds kind of sketchy or people are talking about being taken to like weird places where they kind of had like a sales pitch, they're probably not lying about that. I've seen those a couple of times. The ones that you can book right there in port. Most of them are on the up and up and are great and do really good jobs, but always kind of stop, take a step aside, read the Yelp reviews, read the TripAdvisor reviews, read the Google reviews, and then make a decision. You don't want to just get off the boat and make a split decision and then end up regretting it. Because I do think the excursions in Alaska are like no other. It's an incredible location. You're going to have an amazing time no matter what, and you're going to see amazing things no matter what. But I do think it's worth still stopping and taking a breath and doing the research a little bit.
And our next tip and trick is just to understand what your itinerary is. Obviously, there's a lot of inside passage, and you can, start in one place and end in a totally different one, or you can go round trip. And there's 7, 10, 11 days. There's so many different itineraries, but all of them seem to include some form of scenic cruising. So you really need to understand what that means and how that's going to impact your itinerary. For instance, if you're on a bigger ship, you may not be able to go all the way down the fjord to get to the glacier. We actually had that happen to us once, and a lot of people were very, very disappointed. So you'll see some beautiful scenery, but you won't get all the way to the glacier. You'll see it way off in the distance.
Yeah, so what happens is they can't completely control the environment, but we've noticed it with the bigger ships. Obviously, they can't get as close as they want to get, and that can be super disappointing because, the first time we did one, I didn't think anything of the scenic cruising. I thought it was just another sea day essentially. And so when we finally went and experienced it, I was like, "Oh my God, this is incredible." That first trip, we were on a bigger ship, right? And so we actually booked an excursion through the cruise line that put us on a smaller boat that took us way closer to the glacier. And we were so thankful for that experience because the bigger ship ended up getting stopped and couldn't go closer. So we were hearing all evening from people that were so excited about seeing the glacier and they didn't really
They
get
didn't actually
to.
get to see the
Yeah.
glacier.
So that breaks my heart a little bit. But we got incredibly lucky. Those excursions aren't always offered, but it's something to at least consider. your ship might not be able to get as close as you want. And don't let it ruin your trip because it's still going to be an incredible location. You're going to have an amazing time.
Well, and make sure you just look at the ship you're booking on before you book because, if you look at a ship and it's, one of the smaller ones, you're probably going to be fine and be able to get right up in there. But if it's one of the bigger ships, there's always a risk. And if the weather turns or something like that, then there's only so much that they can do to get you to that glacier. And
They're trying to, man.
yes,
They want those good reviews. So
yes,
it's not
they
like
do.
they're slacking because they don't want to go up there. And now going through the fjords, it's still incredible.
Yeah, it's still beautiful.
I love
I mean,
that experience.
your ship is huge and it will get so close to land, you'll be like stunned at how
Yeah.
close you're.
And there's waterfalls cascading down the sides of these mountains, and I love it. I'm so excited. So you can probably see it on my face, but it's an experience, and you're gonna have an amazing time.
Yeah, and your ship is going to have a naturalist that's going to actually like walk you through if you're on one of the open decks, or you can turn on your bridge cam and they're going to walk you through what they're seeing as they see it. So they'll point out the waterfalls, they'll point out if they see a sea lion or an otter or whales or whatever the case may be. So it's really a special experience, but just understand which glaciers you're going to, what your ship is, what the size is. If it usually gets up close, you can find Facebook groups where people talk about it. Just kind of know that before you go so you're not disappointed.
But at the end of the day, it's an incredible trip. People like spend their whole lives wanting to cruise Alaska for a reason. This is like a bucket list cruise for a lot of people. So, all right. And our last tip for you guys is to kind of have an understanding of what the cruise ship's going to be doing on board, what the activities look like. They do a lot of really special and like individual ones that are really, really unique to Alaska. They'll talk about the heritage and its importance to the United States and a whole history lesson about everything. So you'll see those kind of things, and you don't always get those on different cruises. So I think doing things that are uniquely Alaskan cruise themed is actually really important, and it's a good way to really enjoy your Alaskan cruise experience.
Yeah, and depending on what cruise line you're with, we are on Princess. They have some other kind of special activities. One of our favorites of Princess is Puppies in the Piazza.
Yeah.
So they bring actual sled dogs on and let you hang out with them for a little bit in the piazza, which is really cool. They also sometimes do stargazing where they will turn off all of the lights on the ship at a given time and just everybody can go outside and they'll point out anything that they see. And then our ship also has something they call the Northern Lights Lounge, which is basically just a lounge in the Wheelhouse Bar. They have pub trivia and they put like lights on the ceiling that make it look like the Northern Lights. So there's just some cute, fun things they do to make it feel more like Alaska when you're on the ship, because a lot of times you do have to have at least a couple of sea days going up there and back. Just know what they're doing, know kind of, what you can't miss, and look out for those special things because they are truly special.
Yeah, and to piggyback off of that, one more special thing that's kind of an activity, it's your dinners. They have like locally sourced salmon and blueberries from Alaska, things like that. So I think cuisine's a really big part of enjoying a cruise, and they do an incredible job. All the cruise ships do an incredible job of making sure you're getting things that are locally sourced and sustainable, and you're just gonna get the best of the best, and like really you're gonna enjoy that Alaskan flavors. Smoked salmon is a big one. So honestly, try to expand like your palate a little bit and give some new things a try because some of those things are just so incredible. So.
And those are all of our tips and tricks for cruising through Alaska. This was our 4th cruise through Alaska, and we've done it at all times of year. We have done it on different sizes of ships. They all have been Princess, so let us know in the comments if you have any tips that are specific to some other cruise lines that people might find useful. We would love to hear those as well. But cruising through Alaska, in my opinion, is the best way to see Alaska. We did spend some time on land in Fairbanks last year, and it was fun, but the beauty that you see on the water, the amount of wildlife that you can see, the little towns that you can pass through, it's all just beautiful.
Yeah, and I really think this is a huge contender for doing like a back-to-back cruise. If maybe you're looking to branch the gap between mid-season and end of season or something like that, I think that would be really, really cool. Or, if you want to do one of the cruise tours where you stay at their resorts in Alaska before the cruise starts and then catch the cruise ship back to the mainland United States, I think that would be incredible. So I think that would be a really, really good time and a great way to like really spend time with the family. I think doing like a family trip like that would be phenomenal.
Yeah, no matter if you're a younger couple, an older couple, you have a family, you have multi-generations, I think this is a perfect cruise for pretty much anybody is going to enjoy this. In fact, like my mom loved warm weather cruises. All she ever wanted was to go be on a beach, but we brought her to Alaska last year and she absolutely loved it. So I think it's the kind of cruise that appeals to everybody, and we'll find something for everybody no matter, who they are. So what do you think? Have you cruised in Alaska? Do you have any tips and tricks that you want to share with others? Let us know in the comments. And if you enjoy this video and want to see more travel content from us, please like the video and subscribe to our channel. But for now, I'm Rachel.
And I'm David.
And we hope this video helps you find the right direction for your next adventure.
Bye.
Bye.